The draft is over, but reactions to the draft are going strong. And for the Dolphins, that's not necessarily a good thing. What's up, Dolphins fans? Welcome to this week's edition of Dolphins Deep Dive with Perk. I am Chris Perkins, your host, your South Florida Sun Sentinel Miami Dolphins columnist. That is David Furones. He is your South Florida Sun Sentinel Miami Dolphins writer. Furones, big draft weekend for the Dolphins. I don't. Are you good with what they did? Bad with what they did? How are you feeling here?
Perk, first let me say you are always number one on my draft board. And if you're available when I'm on the clock, honestly, I'd probably just trade down. But yeah, I mean, we'll talk about it. I'm okay with some. I like that they beefed up in the trenches, but obviously still a lot that needs to be done, and kind of leaving a big hole in the middle of the draft left something to be desired.
It did. We will definitely get into that. Before we do that, we would like to welcome our viewers that are watching on YouTube. We would like to invite you to watch the podcast if you missed any part of this on Amazon, Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcast. We would also like to invite you to leave your questions, thoughts, comments on our live chat, the best place to get intelligent Dolphins conversation. By the way, some of the questions we will answer on the show, others we will answer later this week in a live online chat, Q&A, actually, not a chat, a Q&A on sunsentinel.com. And also, we would like to tell you that if you want to subscribe to our newsletter, the Fins Flash, our weekly newsletter, you can do so by scanning the QR code that will be shown on your screen. Draft grades went out. The Dolphins are not on the honor roll. We're going to talk about what went wrong, what went right for the Dolphins in the draft. Also, the offense. Oh, this is a big one for me. They've gotten almost everything they wanted this offseason. The defense has been neglected. I'm going to tell you why I think Anthony Weaver should be upset. In our Furones bonus, we are going to ask David Furones what the Dolphins would look like if they had drafted Shador Sanders. What a circus that would be. And finally, we're going to ask which way is the Dolphins' 2025 season headed. We know the Jalen Ramsey trade situation is out there. We know that Calais Campbell and Teron Armstead have left, but they did get some beef in the first two rounds of the draft. So we will discuss where this season is headed. As we always say around here, there's an ocean of possibilities. Let's dive in. Here we go. Furones is in the water, baby. I like it. I like it. All right, so the Dolphins draft grade, I gave them a D. And the reason that I gave them a D is because I thought they turned this into a two-man draft with the first-round pick, Kenneth Grant, the defensive tackle, nose tackle from Michigan, and then the second-round pick, Jonas Savaiinaea, the guard from Arizona.
Sorry, who was that? Who was that?
Jonah.
Huh?
Jonah.
Oh,
Jonah.
Okay, yeah, just want to make sure you got his name right.
That's a Savaiinaea, baby. That's it. That's what we're rolling with right now. But look, they traded out of the third and fourth rounds, and a lot of draft analysts thought the true value in this draft was in the second, third, and fourth rounds. I'm not down with anybody counting on fifth, sixth, and seventh round picks to come in and make an immediate impact. So for those who say, well, they got two other nose tackles and they got the big bulky running back, no, you got two people in this draft, Kenneth Grant and Savaiinaea, and to me, that is not good enough. Furones, your thoughts?
Wow, so you said D. Gave him a D, huh?
A D.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I give this draft a solid C. C. So a little bit, but yeah, I mean, it's still not great. I'm kind of in between here. I think I'm probably going to echo a lot of the things that you say here. Now, I like Kenneth Grant. I think he's going to be a stud on the D-line for years, and he really is not just a run stuffer with his ability to affect a quarterback at his size. I think the team certainly had conviction in Jonas Savaiinaea. They traded up for him. But between that trade up, which cost a third rounder, and trading out of the fourth rounder, which was a good trade, by the way, for the value they got in a third rounder next year, doesn't really help this current administration for this season in this draft and adding talent onto the 2025 team. But that made it where there were more than 100 picks without a Dolphins selection. 100 picks, more than that, actually, because I think it was, 37 to 143? So that's a huge gap. So you punted on the whole middle part of the draft. So you basically took yourself out of getting any of the mid-tier guys, and there were some good cornerbacks in that grouping still going in the third round. You still have that biggest hole on the roster, which is cornerback right now, with Jalen Ramsey set to be traded. On that end, let's also wait till we see what the Dolphins add among the later waves of free agent cornerbacks, because it appears they did this deliberately, knowing that's the position where there remain options. Rasul Douglas, Asante Samuel Jr., maybe some others past their prime like James Bradbury and Stephon Gilmore. Shoot, Kendall Fuller is still out there. That all looks better than the current defensive tackle market right now as far as free agents. So you kind of did need to go to the draft for your young infusion of talent on the D-line. You did get 3 of them in this draft. But again, like you said, you really got 2 players at the top, and then everyone else, once you're picking the 5th through 7th rounds, you're kind of taking flyers on guys. You're kind of just hoping that they turn into something, but it's not really any kind of certainty. But even all those free agent corners, those are veteran plug-in for a season or 2 options. They didn't end up with a franchise player at corner, one who will be with you for years down the road, which was disappointing. But Chris Greer has a history of finding them late or undrafted. Plus, they have all those free agents available. I give it a C because it's 2 guys, and then the late draft picks that you're basically taking flyers on, and maybe one of them or 2 sort of rise to the occasion.
Well, before we go on, let's shout out to some of the people who are here. Some of our usuals: Cat for Life, Ender Fireplace, YT. Who else we got here? True Blazer, Drago. What's going on? Good morning to all of you all. Thanks for joining. Or good afternoon, actually. Thanks for joining us.
We never do the show in the morning, Perk. Why?
No, we really don't do it.
How are you stuck on morning?
I don't know.
It's always
I don't know, bro. Leave me alone, man. I'm fuming about this draft. But I'm trying to take it easy on the Dolphins here, okay? I'm trying to be professional and controlled and all of this stuff. The cornerback situation, inexcusable. Furones, 13 cornerbacks were selected in the 1st through 3rd rounds, okay? And if you take Travis Hunter out of it, who the Dolphins had no chance at, they had a shot at 12 cornerbacks, starting with Jahdae Barron, who went number 20. They passed on all of them. 9 cornerbacks taken in the 3rd round. 9! And they didn't feel that any of them could start for them. None of them could do anything for this year's Miami Dolphins. Come on, what are we doing here? And so now you're going to go out and overpay for Asante Samuel Jr., maybe Rasul Douglas, Jair Alexander, Stephon Gilmore, 1-year patches. You're losing a freaking Hall of Fame cornerback. Who are you replacing them with? This makes no sense. No sense at all. The cornerback situation, inexcusable. How in the world do you pass on all these cornerbacks that are out there? You've got Cam Smith. You've got Storm Duck. You've got Ethan Bonner, Isaiah Johnson, Jason Maitre. Like, you don't have anybody who is proven in the NFL. Why not at least draft one guy in the 3rd round so you can have somebody to anchor this thing with? I like Kader Kogu, but he's not an edge corner. He's not a boundary corner. So I just don't understand what's going on here at cornerback. You're going to get riddled this season by all these quarterbacks that you face. The cornerback situation is the biggest thing that upsets me throughout this whole draft for the Dolphins.
I'll tell you what, in every draft, you're always going to have these. All right, these will be the comparisons years down the road where maybe it's the Jalen Waddle, Penei Sewell comparison, or had they just never done the trade back and trade back up, trade back and then trade up again in that draft, Jalen Waddle versus Jamar Chase. You would have had Jamar Chase if you just stayed where you were at number 3. That kind of comparison. This year, it's going to be Jahdae Barron versus Kenneth Grant in what you could have had in the first round, and then even at that point we thought Will Johnson, but then Will Johnson drops to the second round because of concerns over his knee, and we really don't know what it is with his knee. He says people are bringing up stuff from 2 years ago and that he's fine, he's over that. He just didn't run at his pro day because of a little hamstring tweak. But but we're going to be also comparing Jonah Savaianaya and Will Johnson because he was drafted 47th. The Dolphins were originally picking 48. They moved up to take Jonah, and then they could have had Will Johnson there. They could have had Will Johnson for a smaller trade up. So we're going to be comparing those two as far as what the Dolphins get, and then also where they stand at cornerback in comparison to maybe what they could have had if they went corner at one of those picks, and adjust the trenches in the second, third round. You know, if you could have used your day 3 draft capital to move up in the third round from your original 98 slot, which was a compensatory selection, instead of using that one to trade up for Jonah. So we're going to be making these comparisons years down the road and seeing, okay, did the Dolphins really make the right moves in this draft, and what could the Dolphins have had? And if Jahdae Barron becomes a stud in the NFL, then and Kenneth Grant is kind of like a regular defensive lineman, then we're going to be looking at that. But I am hopeful that Grant could be an excellent defensive tackle with his ability to move at his size.
Cap for Life says, love the Savaianaya pick. Don't care what capital we gave up. The future is now. Here's my concern with giving up that capital is that you moved up from 48 to 37 in the second round. Savaianaya was the first offensive lineman taken in the second round at 37, but there was no offensive lineman selected before number 48, the spot you traded out of. So conceivably, you could have still gotten Savaianaya at number 48. Now, look, if he's on the board, maybe somebody who, like New England, who took the running back from Ohio State, Travion Henderson, maybe they would have said, "Oh, we're snatching Savaianaya." So, let's, so maybe that was the Dolphins' thinking. But, they take a running back. New England, I think they took the Georgia center Jared Wilson, maybe in the fourth round, I think. But I don't think that anybody was going to grab Savaianaya. And here's the other thing about him. He is your 11th starter on offense. He's the second guard that you're taking. How important is this guy? Like, James Daniels was your biggest ticket free agent. Like, isn't that enough? Can't you get a guard in the third round, the fourth round? Like, he's not a crucial person. He's not like wide receiver number 2. He's not your left tackle. He's not your starting running back. He's guard number 2. He's starter number 11. You had 10 starters in house already. Why are you trading up to get this guy? He better be a world beater. And that's nothing against Savaianaya. That's more against Chris Greer and Mike McDaniel and their judgment. It just blows my mind that you pass on a high impact position such as cornerback to get your second guard, not your first guard, your second guard, and your first guard has already been your high priced free agent ticket. I don't get that trade.
Well, Chris, the offseason did start with GM Chris Greer saying they needed to invest in the offensive line, so that is an investment. They dished out their highest priced free agent contract in the first wave of free agency to the line in James Daniels, and then now moving up in the second round. So that's a second round pick and a third round pick, along with the other picks that were involved in it, day 3 selections, swap of picks to move up. So that's investing, and we know this team needed an upgrade at the guards, and I think we saw how much it cost them last year with how they performed in short yardage, how many plays they had for loss, which led the league. So it'll help in the run game. I think it'll create a cleaner pocket for Tua. Not so much interior pressure coming up the middle, upgrading at guard. But he's also going to be a rookie. And then now you're going to have a first-year starter at left tackle in Patrick Paul with Teron Armstead retiring. So you are investing in the line, but overall, do you have a net loss on this line still? Because Teron Armstead, granted, he's hurt a lot. You don't know what you're getting in Patrick Paul yet. He was raw coming out in the draft last year, but you did also invest a second-round pick in him. So you better have developed him over these past 12 months, almost to the T, because he was taken last draft. But and I know he's been working hard, but it will take a lot for this offensive line, and they certainly invested.
Chris writes in and says, I'm a layman, but it looked to me like Chris Greer drafted like someone who knew his job wasn't on the line and that he'd be drafting in 2026. Do you want to take that, Furones, or do you want me to take it?
I don't know if that's the case, because he did fill needs with this draft. I think he would have been going, and sure, maybe these players were the best player available regardless, but I think he was looking for guys who could start immediately. I think that's why you saw a trade up. I think they see Jonas Avayanaya as a starting guard from day one. Now, he'll still have to compete, and that's competition against Liam Eichenberg, which Mike McDaniel has already said he needs to be better if he's going to return a starter. And that was before they drafted Jonah. So I think they know what's going on there. So you would slide them in as starters right now. Kenneth Grant has to be a starter because he was your first-round pick, and you just don't have other bodies on the D-line except for D tackles taken later in the draft, outside of Zach Sealer and, Benito Jones, of course. But I think if you take a D tackle, big nose tackle in the first round, you're counting on him being better than Benito Jones. So I think he did draft to fill starting needs right now, and then probably with the idea that I could get my cornerbacks in this later stage of free agency. So I think he kind of was drafting a little bit for the now, but then the value of the trade out of the fourth round for next year's third is kind of like too good of a value pick if you don't have a guy that you really want at that selection, I suppose.
I agree with Chris. I don't think Greer and McDaniel drafted with an air of desperation. They drafted with an air of comfort. I don't know what that means, but I agree with Chris's interpretation of things. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more desperation, a little bit more we need to win in 2025. Shake Money has a good question here. What do reporters ask questions when they know the answers to? Does your boss make you, or are you hoping to get lucky? Here's a reason that I do it, Shake Money. The Dolphins say, I'll give you an example, and I didn't ask this question because we didn't have time. The Dolphins say that they draft BPA, best player available. They draft Kenneth Grant ahead of Tyler Warren. And I was going to ask them, does this mean that on your draft board, you had Kenneth Grant ahead of Tyler Warren? And I would like to get that on the record. Because, I don't know what they would say. I would think that they would say yes, because teams always say he was the highest guy on our draft board. But that would cause you to be like, what the hell kind of draft board are you running here? I didn't ask them, but they would have said yes, right, Furones? I think you're obligated pretty much to say yes, but I would have liked to have heard them explain that. That's one example, one reason, just so I could get it on the record. We could think they would say yes, but we don't know until they actually say it. So that's how I would answer that question. You want to take a stab at it?
Yeah, and I think probably when it's the draft board question, you could always manipulate your board to lean toward the needs, right? So you can maybe think Tyler Warren is a better player, but you could have Kenneth Grant higher on your board because you have the greater need there. So, but yeah, they say he was a player they targeted. So, would it be the case if they were also very strong at defensive tackle? If they had a Christian Wilkins, Zach Sealer combination right now, would Kenneth Grant be that high on your board, or John A. Barron might be higher on your board if that was the case? So
exactly. So I just want to hear them say the things, even if you think it's an obvious answer. Sometimes maybe it's not, and you have to get them to say it.
And also, for our viewers, and sometimes we need a quote, or we need just to hear on the record what their thoughts are. Even if you know the answer, it's we're writing articles that include their voice. So yeah, you probably could assume all right, this is what they're feeling, but you got to hear it from them, and then also include that in your coverage. So just so people know how we kind of go about our job in writing our stories. So like I asked about undrafted free agents, and I'm just like, I'm looking for a quote just to have in my undrafted free agent story as I list all the names and what they did. So I know what the process is like because I've covered four drafts now, and I ask them the same question at the end of every draft press conference. But I just want to use that fresh quote about what the process is. And Chris Greer mentioned how his phone was buzzing in his pocket, and and then it creates a nice little anecdote to include as well.
Yep. All right, let's move on to segment number 2, and this is. I'm going to try to be calm on this one. And I think that Anthony Weaver has been screwed this offseason. I'm just going to say it like that. He's been screwed. And here's the thing with this is that, man, here's a guy whose defense is losing 2 Hall of Famers, Calais Campbell and Jalen Ramsey. Your offense, this spoiled child, favorite child offense, has gotten everything it wanted this offseason. Let's start with the shiny new assistant coach, Bobby Slowick. And then you go to the backup quarterback, Zach Wilson. And then you go to James Daniels. You go to Jonas Savaianaya. You go to your big-bodied wide receiver, Nick Westbrook-Akine. You go to your power running back, which is Ollie Gordon and Alexander Madison. You got yourself a backup offensive lineman in Larry Borum. You've gotten, like, this offense is loaded. Like, all of your starters are in-house. Most of your key backups are in-house. In the meantime, Anthony Weaver needs cornerback number 1, cornerback number 2, another safety, another defensive tackle. I mean, this is ridiculous. And this offense constantly lets you down. It chokes in games against playoff teams. It beats up on bad teams and runs up the numbers. And it does not do anything in big moments. It only has one way of scoring. That's the big play passing game. Like, it can't win games with the offensive line, with the run game, with anything else. It's this big play passing game, and you're keeping on with this philosophy of this is how we're going to win. Try to balance your team. Try to get a better defense. Try to get a better run game. That's what Philly does. San Francisco, Baltimore, some of the Detroit, some of these top teams. If I'm Anthony Weaver, I am absolutely livid that this favorite child offense gets everything at once. I lose 2 Hall of Famers, and you're giving me KJ Britt and Willie Gay Jr., Iffy Melifonwu, Ashton Day. Are you freaking kidding me? Get this man some serious help.
Perk, I don't know about all that. And you said all those things that were wrong about the offense, and you kind of laid out the reasons why it needs more and why they probably do need a big guard to help this O-line, and why they draft a big running back who, if you don't get what you want out of Alexander Madison in short yardage, then he could be a guy that helps you there if Mike McDaniel is to actually commit to using his bigger backs in the short yardage situation. So, I mean, everything you mentioned that was wrong about the offense, you kind of laid out why they still do need to add to it. And this was a year where the offense did struggle, coming off, of course, the highly touted number 1 offense in the ballyhooed number 1 offense of 2023, which you have made clear on several occasions how fraudulent those stats were.
Yes.
But for those same reasons, this is why they still need to adjust the offense. And so the Ramsey departure seems to be because there was a clash between him and Mike McDaniel. That much seemed evident from McDaniel declining to talk about their relationship when I asked in the post-draft press conference. I mean, Mike McDaniel, he might filibuster on an uncomfortable question, but to flat out say he's not talking about a topic, I've never seen that from him. So it was probably pretty telling. But Perk, the number 1 pick for them in this year's draft, it did go to the D-line. Anthony Weaver is a former defensive line coach, former defensive lineman in the NFL. I mean, I think we haven't talked to him yet, but I would imagine he loved that pick. That pick has his fingerprints all over it. So he got the first round pick.
He did. He but look, Furones, but he needs much more. This offense went into the draft with pretty much everything it needed. Don't tell me that Ollie Gordon Jr. is going to help you. He's a 6th-round pick. Let's look at the history of their 6th-round picks under Mike McDaniel. There's none. The guys who have been picked lower haven't done anything for them, right? Skylar Thompson has been the biggest contributor when you talk about fifth, sixth, and seventh round picks. I mean, you got.
Let's wait. Let's wait to see Malik Washington. Okay. Well, I like
Well,
something about Malik Washington. So
I do, but look, Mo Camara. But like you're counting on a guy like who is selected at that level to make a significant year one contribution. No way. Absolutely no way. I think that Anthony Weaver has a legit complaint because he's got a defensive unit that could actually help this team do some things that it hasn't been able to do, which is force some defenses, some offenses to have turnovers, have sacks. They did have the sacks 2 years ago, but sacks and turnovers. This defense can win games. This defense can change games, and they've ignored it. They're pouring so many resources into this offense that it's terrible. It is absolutely. It's a travesty. I can't believe that they keep getting all these offensive players and the defense just basically gets ignored. It's terrible.
Now, what if there was a communication between all facets that Anthony Weaver has come to them and maybe Mike McDaniel and Chris Greer, who have to oversee the whole operation? They're saying, okay, Weaver tells us, hey, I could work with, get me Kenneth Grant in the first round, but as far as needing further defensive players, I could go with one of these guys in the fifth, like Dante Trader. Maybe they target him and say, hey, so we don't need to use an earlier draft pick on another safety. I like the kid Jason Marshall. So if you want to go other places early, and then maybe on the offensive side, they're saying Jonas Avayanaya, that's the guy we need because, like you even mentioned, there were no other offensive linemen. He might have been that last one that they really felt was a top-tier offensive lineman in this draft. So there's probably communication there where Weaver also says, hey, these veteran cornerbacks, I know I can work with them. I know I can make something happen with them. Maybe they like something that they've been seeing in this offseason from Cam Smith and feel that that he could get going. But and you mentioned that they just went with Slowick as far as another coaching addition. Hey, let's not forget Anthony Weaver's defense got Joe Barry last year, linebackers coach who has defensive coordinator experience. Ryan Crow is outside linebackers coach who has been interviewed for defensive coordinator jobs this offseason. So it is a strong staff as well on the defensive side as well. So we don't have to go overboard saying, well, and then on top of everything else, you added Slowick to the offensive side.
Slowick is a higher profile coach. I would say, and he's and look and boy and so the offense now you've got Mike McDaniel presiding over it. You've got Frank Smith at offensive coordinator. You've got Slowick as the senior pass game coordinator. Darrell Bevel as the pass game coordinator. What's our tight ends coach who is the associate?
On Embry.
Right, Embo is the associate head coach. We've got a Studesville, the running backs coach, is the assistant head coach. Like you've got like 6 people on the offensive side who have titles. Like, what are we doing here? Like, why do you need all this? It makes no sense. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. People are some people don't agree with me. The Hesse, who he's New Mexico, I think. But he says what did he say? I usually agree with Perk, but on this one I don't. I don't agree with Perk here and usually do. Let's see. Pete's Take says Chris Perk, those guys are better than the guys from last year. What a joke. Robert Boosh says, I find it ironic that there is so much concern that McDaniel is a player's coach and too soft, and yet Ramsey demands out because they don't get along. Makes no sense. I will say this about the Ramsey situation. I think that what's going on there is that perhaps Jalen Ramsey took a look around, looked in the locker room, saw that there's not much talent, looked at the Dolphins' plan in the next 2 years, and said, I don't think they're going to try to win a Super Bowl, and said, I want to get the heck out of here. I mean, I don't, if you, how many games do you think this team wins this year? How many next year? I don't see them winning a playoff game in the next 2 years. I don't see them being better than 2023.
No, I see it being another year of coming down to week 18 and hoping for some help to get in. You're probably hovering around 500, maybe hoping to get in at 9-8,
Right.
something like that. But remember, they tell us Jalen Ramsey didn't request a trade. So
Oh no, I don't
is
think
what they say.
I don't think he did. Technically, I believe him on that, but I believe Ramsey could have looked around and said, "Man, this is a bad situation. I really don't want to be associated with it." And maybe they said, "Well, Jalen, give us the first part of the early part of free agency. We'll get things turned around." And man, maybe Jalen came back to him and said, "I don't see things turning around here." And maybe that's when they said, "Well, it's untenable for both sides." I think there was probably some personality thing with Ramsey and McDaniel, but I also think that there was some stuff that Ramsey looked around and said that this team is going nowhere, and I'm 30 years old, and I need to get the heck out of here. So we'll see what happens with them.
I'm with them.
Yeah, I'm with them there also. But that's my offense rant. Let's see. Chris says, Perk, I think that the moves for offense lend themselves to ball control and time of possession, which is going to be absolutely necessary to help a patchwork defense. Well, I mean, that's I don't know if Mike McDaniel wants to run the ball control offense. I don't know if he's in time of possession. I think he is all about the flash and the big play with Jonnu and HN and Tyreek and Tua and Waddle. I think he's still in that in that type of a situation. So anyway, let's see here. All right, well, you know what? Let's get to a couple of others of these. Billy Batson says Coach Weaver is only going to give the offense the ball back. I hope you mean that in a good way, Billy, in a turnover way, not in a they're going to be out there for 2 plays and allow a touchdown, and I hope that's what you mean.
It's always a funny phrase. Let's get the ball back for the offense. Well, yeah, there is a shortcut way to do that, but you're probably not running a great defense if you just quickly give it back to the offense with 7 more points on the board.
That's right. Let's see again. The Hesse from Albuquerque. That's what I thought. Hey, okay. Trinity Soundworks is now the fish out of water. Got here late. What's up, my people? This is actually Trinity Soundworks. I rebranded myself. How about that, baby? I like that. Rebranding. I like that. Cody says this draft was cheeks. I agree, Cody. I agree 100%. 100%. So, all right. Now, it is time for us to migrate to one of the top 4 segments of this 4-segment program. It is the Furones bonus.
Oh, the Furones bonus.
I love it, baby. All right, Furones. So we saw Shador Sanders drop down to the 5th round. There were talks that he was going to go number 3.
We're going here.
Yeah, we're going here, baby. We're going here. There were talks he was going to go number 3 to the Giants, number 9 to New Orleans, number 21 to Pittsburgh, to the Rams, I believe, at 27, wherever the heck they were. He ends up in the 5th round, Furones. If the Dolphins would have drafted him, they passed on him, let's see, 1, 2, 3 times. I don't know where he went in the 5th if the Dolphins. Did they pass on him 3 times, first, second, fifth?
Considering also the round 4 pick, they traded out. So
yeah, they traded out.
Anyway,
they passed on him multiple times.
Yeah.
If I'm a team, I don't want Shador Sanders in my training camp. Regular season, I think, would have been fine. Training camp, I think that Dion is chirping and that my son is better than Zach Wilson. My son is almost as good as Tua. My son. I think Colorado reporters are probably going to ask him, hey, shouldn't Shador be getting more reps in practice? And he would answer, and then we'd have to ask Mike McDaniel. We'd have to ask Tua. We'd have to ask Zach Wilson. Nobody wants that circus. What do you think the Dolphins organization would have looked like if they would have gotten Shador Sanders?
And here's the thing about it, because the question is, kind of valid now. I mean, if you would have just been a first-round pick, then you would have thought, okay, no, you'd never take him at 13. But It's kind of valid now because he actually fits the Dolphins' offense, and they had several opportunities in middle rounds, and then he ends up going in the 5th. He actually would fit, and Tua is kind of his comp, right, as a quarterback. A lot of people talk about that he's similar to Tua, not the strongest arm. He's accurate, can read the field. Maybe not the same anticipation as Tua, but he has some traits that make him a fit in a West Coast style of short passing game. As far as the distraction part, I think that somewhat goes away now when he's a day 3 pick. The expectation for him is now gone. Shador has been humbled. The NFL sent a message to him and Deion Sanders. Don't think you're above our organization. Pressure might be there on a team's coach that Deion could replace him next year if Shador was actually tabbed the quarterback of the future or franchise quarterback somewhere. But that he's a 5th-round pick now. He would be a QB3, a decent at that point. He's just a decent developmental prospect that you get at that value of picking him late in the draft. So I actually, once it got to a certain point, I actually would not have hated. I would have been totally okay with him as a 4th-round pick, where you're basically swapping him out. You get Shador Sanders, who many people had as the number 2 quarterback prospect in this draft originally, and then even during the season, we're talking about being the number 1 pick ahead of Cam Ward. During last college football season, you end up getting him on day 3 in the 4th round before you traded out. I actually would not have been mad at it at all, and have him as a QB3, where Mike McDaniel talks about developing Zach Wilson now after his failed tenure with the Jets, and seeing that, feeling that he could have some potential there. Boy, take on Shador in that same realm, and I think maybe Deion he'll kind of lower it down a notch now, especially when Shador is not his actual player. Also, he could probably just keep it to his focus to what's going on with Colorado. He might make some small comment on Shador, but I think those days are over. He's done hyping him up for the draft. He does, unless Tua were to just be terrible, and then Zach Wilson also, then that would be the only way that it comes to that. And also, I want to hit on this. Let's give Cam Ward his moment with the number 1 pick. Why in the draft coverage on TV did it have to be where you are immediately having Mel Kiper talk about, well, I would have gone Shador because this, and that. How are we not giving Cam Ward his moment with the coverage? I mean, just the least covered number 1 draft pick there's ever been, where focus goes away from him. And it's not like he's a boring story. He's a 0-star recruit that made it all the way here. It's a fantastic story. And coming out of Miami, which a university that people nationally still love to hate on, even though the program has been down for several years. The people still think back to the great teams of the 80s, early 2000s, and there's always sort of like this bias against them. So it kind of, the talk would drive, I think, a lot of the ratings and attention. And low key, I do feel there is like a weird bias against Cam Ward, where like any of he threw 7 interceptions to 39 touchdowns, and then but people harp on those 7 interceptions to no end. Like, all right, they showed the cornerback from Cal. This was happening in our Dolphins media workroom. Mm-hmm. They showed that interception, a terrible interception. Everyone knows, he threw across his body. He shouldn't have made that play. But it stands out so much to people, like, oh boy, Cam Ward. And then when Zeke Biggers gets you did this on this next one. I'm going to Zeke Biggers, another member of the media, says, boy, there sure are a lot of Cam Ward lowlights. Well, yes, when draft prospects have a highlight against the number 1 pick, they are going to show that. Okay, there are a lot of defenders who throughout their career had a great moment against Tom Brady, against Peyton Manning, and those would be highlights on their career highlights. But Tom Brady is still the greatest of all time, even though he threw an interception to some undrafted cornerback at some point in 2010. Okay, so yeah, Cam Ward is going to have – in that game against Cal when he threw that bad interception, he still ended up leading a comeback from 25 points down. So give Cam Ward his due, and let's not make more out of the negative plays, which, yes, they do stand out on film when he makes a bad decision. But Patrick Mahomes had 15 interceptions one year at Texas Tech. and he's still the greatest quarterback in the game right now. Cam Ward only had 7 last year, the 39 touchdowns. So I think it's a little overblown when we start criticizing his play, as the NFL teams clearly, at least the one which had the number 1 pick, felt he was the top prospect in this draft.
I'm a Cam Ward fan. I think Cam Ward is going to be an excellent quarterback. I don't know how many Pro Bowls he'll make, but I think he's going to be an excellent quarterback. I just think he makes some bad decisions on routine plays. I thought the same thing about Caleb Williams also. So he's definitely a number 1 pick. He was clearly the best quarterback in the draft. But this gets me back to Shador. When you talk about why is nobody talking about Cam, it's because of Shador. That's why I don't want him in my training camp. You won't be talking about Tua. You won't be talking about Zach Wilson. You'll be talking about Shador. And Shador, because of the way training camps are set up, starters only take snaps in joint practices. Shador is going to be taking a lot, or he would be here. I don't know about in Cleveland, where he's, Dylan Gabriel, the 3rd round pick, will be taking some snaps also. But down here, it would be Shador and Zach Wilson, and Shador would suck all of the oxygen out of the room. I think regular season would be different. Training camp would kind of be a nightmare for everybody involved. It would be a circus. That would be one reason why I wouldn't want Shador if I'm a team.
Yeah,
but
the circus
season,
I don't see it as a circus. It would be a circus if the Dolphins took him at 13, and now all of a sudden, you're bringing in Tua's top competition. So as a first-round pick, that would be a circus. But once he's a 5th-round pick, then that's all you used on him. It's not like, and yes, he'll get a lot of training camp reps, but it would no longer be in the perspective of, could he supplant the starting quarterback? I think that the team could just still send a strong message. We have our starting quarterback. We took in Shador because of the great value. We see him as a day 3 pick. Hey, Quinn Ewers, the guy that the Dolphins did draft on day 3, no one's talking about him and he is a big name too, but no one's going to talk about him like he's going to supplant the starter. I think everyone kind of now understands what it is, and hopefully for Shador and also Sanders family, maybe they got humbled a little bit and said, all right, we can't really go about it like toying with the NFL the way we have been. Let the process play out, and now just get back to football and developing.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting situation up there in Cleveland. I don't know how training camp is going to look, but my guess is it's going to be a zoo up there. That's kind of my guess.
I'm going to be looking forward to checking our friend Daniel Oyefusi's coverage working with ESPN. So I will be looking forward to reading his coverage from Cleveland. Exactly.
The chat line is kind of blowing up here. What's up to Adam Thompson listening to Southwest Michigan? Let's see here. Who else did I shout out to Matt Newton? If not, what's up, Matt? Lee King Snatch, Meet John, IMAX, J Biz, Cody. Let me read a couple of these Furones. The Meet John. I want to save this one for the online Q&A, but I think I'm going to throw it out here right now. Meek John says the bottom line is that the Dolphins don't want to win. If they did, they would have picked up a better quarterback in the offseason and the draft. David Furones, your thoughts on that?
Quarterback. It's QB, not corner?
Yes, QB.
Yeah,
Dolphins don't want to win. They would have picked up a better QB in the offseason and the draft if they did want to win.
Well, I don't know about the part about they don't want to win. I am convinced they want to win. I don't think people just want to tank when jobs are on the line. I think they are trying to win. I believe them on that. But, yeah, I've said it several times. I would have preferred a veteran, proven backup quarterback. Jimmy Garoppolo was my top choice. Of course, you can't get any quarterback on your wish list. It has to go both ways. And maybe Jimmy G would have had to come here. But the Dolphins also say, as Mike McDaniel put it to us at owners' meetings, that Zach Wilson was the targeted free agent for a backup quarterback. So I understand if you feel you can develop him and you can take him to that next step, but he's still a project compared to you could have had a solid veteran who could maybe keep a season afloat when you have a personality like a Tyreek Hill in the offense, and when you have the talent of Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Jonnu Smith, Devon Achane, who can just make the offense work and sustain it for a few games if Tua were to miss, and keep your team on track to make the playoffs as a wild card team. Zach Wilson feels just more up and down. Like it could fluctuate. You're not certain what you're going to get. So it could be great. He could turn out to be that former number 2 pick that you saw, but he could also just look like he did with the Jets. So that's what worries me on a team where you probably need a solid, sound backup quarterback, and Tua probably misses some time.
Let me read a couple of these, and you can take whatever one you want. Billy Batson says Shador's coverage was first overall worthy. Yes. Jay Diaz says Cam is not all that. Cody says 7 interceptions and a lot of fumbles too, but Cody adds still a fan of Cam though. Billy Batson comes back and says, I pray Cam and Shador take the NFL by storm. Here's what I would say to that is that, yes, I am still a fan of Cam. Also, a lot of fumbles. I just thought that Cam, there were some routine plays that he botched. But again, I think Cam is he's a keeper. He's definitely the best quarterback in this draft, no doubt about it. I'm just saying, I don't know if I can predict, like, say, 4 Pro Bowl appearances in a 12-year career at this point. That's all.
Yeah, well, and it's tough in the AFC, of course, as we all know. But I think, you draft him number 1 because you see the tools, like you see the off-schedule plays that he's able to make, the confidence that he carries himself with. I think his leadership skills are tremendous. So to be the leader of a franchise is tremendous. The decision-making stuff, which, they were definitely a lot of plays. I watched practically every UM game. Sometimes I was traveling, maybe would on a Saturday, maybe would miss some of it if I couldn't get connected to the game on a flight. But the decision-making stuff, you could still work with him through NFL coaching. Let's keep in mind that he started at Incarnate Ward and then played that great season at Washington State, got to UM. So, he has progressed so much from being that high school quarterback that was unranked entirely. So just think of how much more potential you also have to build on. So it's not like there's no quarterback that's a finished product based on what you see in his final college season. So I think some of those, all right, make the routine play, that check down instead of throwing it across your body. I think with NFL coaching and just him learning from the mistakes and which throws he can't get away with in the NFL that maybe he did in college, I think every quarterback has to sort of take that step. And I do understand other drafts he wouldn't be the top overall choice, but hey, we're talking about this one, and for sure he was.
Well, I think pretty much every recent draft, this kid, I really got
probably
him.
Wouldn't be. Yeah, right. It wasn't.
Yeah, I think he would. I like him. I think he would. I think his potential is great. Let me get to this one real quick. Matt Newton says BPA is a myth. This team drafts for need. I thought Chop Robinson was a need draft pick last year. I thought Patrick Paul was a need pick last year. I thought Jalen Wright was a need pick last year, with Raheem Mostert being old and you thinking, or the Dolphins thinking Achane, he might be injury prone. I thought Kenneth Grant was a need pick this year. I think I agree with Matt 100%. I think BPA is a myth. I think the truth is BPA is married with need. You don't just do BPA and coaches just say BPA, like literally BPA. It's a marriage of BPA and need. I don't know why teams won't say that.
Yeah, true. I don't know if I agree with you on Jalen Wright. They traded into that 4th round to take him. So, and you had just returned the number 6 overall rushing offense last year. So I know Raheem Mostert was getting old, but he was having some of his best production along with Devon Achane. You just used a 3rd round pick on him. So I feel like the team definitely felt strongly about him as a player, as a BPA that they just really wanted to get in-house and not necessarily a need, especially when they seldomly used them last year too. Let's not forget that.
Yeah. Pete's Takes, welcome. How about this? This is a great one. Where is it? Billy Batson. I'm tired about hearing Tua Tua Tua. I needed a Shador relief. How about that? How about that? I mean,
Oh,
that's
someone wanted more Shador talk.
yeah.
I guess
Get
you
away
must
from
not have watched
so.
the draft.
Get away. It's tired of Tua, baby. You need some Shador in your life. So that's all good. That's all good. I like that. Let's see here. Oh boy, Matt Newton. The Dolphins have had so much success with seventh round quarterbacks. Brandon Doughty, Skylar Thompson. Let's keep tapping that well. I kind of agree with him. I just, I think that quarterbacks drafted in the fifth, sixth, and seventh round, you're never going to become a starter. You're a career backup, hopefully. Hope that's the best. I would probably rather take a position player who can contribute on special teams. I would probably rather ideally limit my quarterbacks to the fourth round at worst, because you're kind of a serious prospect with a chance of becoming a starter at that point.
Yeah, but I mean, what are you really expecting once you get to those late round picks? So, yeah.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't
Okay, all right, Furones. Let's migrate to our final segment here. And this is going to be a good one because this is off of the question that we've all asked. Are the Dolphins still in win now mode, or is this a soft reset? And look, we know that to me, it was a race against the clock to win with this core of Tua, Tyreek, Waddle, Ramsey, and Sealer. You knew kind of Tehran was probably going to fall off because of age, but this was the core to me going forward in the next couple of years. And now Ramsey's not going to be there. I think I think they're trying to win right now, but not win a Super Bowl. That's if that makes sense. You're just trying. Last in 2023, you were trying to win a Super Bowl. Now you're kind of trying to do the Joe Philbin, Adam Gase team thing of just get into the playoffs, just get a wild card spot, and we'll be content because that's what we have. I think that's more the attitude right now.
Yeah, I would say that it's win now, but yeah, it's not. You're not blowing this up to try and lose.
Right.
Let's try to win. It's try to bring in some young talent to also go with some of the core that you still have, but some that's going by the wayside. And yeah, it's kind of the ceiling feels like just getting into the playoffs. I think we could stop the talk going into this year about surpassing the Buffalo Bills. Going into last year, it was definitely a realistic thing because you were coming off the 2023 season when you went 11-6, but you had a 3-game lead with 5 weeks remaining, and you actually should have secured that division like by 99% chance that you should have won the division and had a home playoff game, and then you actually blew that. So then coming off that you still felt like, okay, but maybe it's the Dolphins are still rising, even though they choked at the end, but it's the Bills are falling, and then it just went the other way. The Bills just skyrocketed back up, even as Stephon Diggs left the franchise, and the Dolphins took a major step back in 2024. So it kind of feels like, it's just going to be wild card appearance is the best, and then go into a cold weather environment and then lose by multiple scores in a wild card playoff game is kind of the ceiling.
Oh, what a grim ending. Go to a cold weather environment and lose. What a grim ending for us. Mark Heavy, welcome to the party. Phil Montgomery says it's a soft reset. Reek has to go. Here's the problem. You can't lose 3 Hall of Famers in one offseason. You can't lose Ramsey, Calais, and Tyreek. Like, you will have gutted this team. So I understand what you mean, Phil. And I've said I would be very disappointed in the team if Tyreek is voted a team captain. As you know, the players vote on the team captains. But right now, man, Reek's got to stay, right, Phil? I mean, he's your best player still. Unfortunately, Reek has got to stay.
Yeah, you got to, and you're stuck salary cap wise. Now post June 1, it's not as bad. Which I think now, the Dolphins should just wait another month because to the salary cap, it's a lot less punitive if you trade him post June 1. So just wait another month. But Chris Greer did say they'll pursue that trade whenever the time comes. So I think maybe the salary cap implications aren't the greatest concern. It's just finding the trade partner and the right trade involving Jalen Ramsey. So, but yeah, I mean, we asked the question about soft. I did to Chris Greer, soft rebuild. We said, and they said no. That word has not been thrown around at all. I think he was speaking specifically to rebuild because no one wants to say that, but there is at least a soft reset feel to some of this. It's you're not just going all in with bring in the veterans who are trying to win a Super Bowl at the end of their careers to go with all the high price contracts. It's like, all right, now we kind of got to back off of that because we need to establish some kind of future. It's not just F them picks with 4 draftees from a couple of drafts and none of them in the first round 2 years running. It's now, all right, we need to start bringing in some young talent because we will have no core going forward after this if you don't. So it's kind of hoping you have some of that young core that could be the next one combined with whichever ones are the holdovers. If Tua ends up just staying healthy and being the quarterback that you can count on down the road, you can keep him there as that piece, but you still have your out with him if he continues to miss time or his play level diminishes, then you can move on and truly have a rebuild with some of the young talent you are acquiring now with a new quarterback in one of the years down the road if it comes to that.
B Stuck the Poet, welcome. He says, I never get the alerts that y'all are on, but what's up, Triple D fam? Yeah, we put it out there on Twitter. It's on sunsentinel.com, but we'll look into that. We'll look into that. We'll see if we can do better on that.
Try to get also the YouTube channel. Just select that bell icon for alerts.
Oh, there you go. See, look at you.
Notifications on when we're going on. Yeah, so you can do that. You can keep up on sunsentinel.com. Follow us on Twitter, and we'll keep you posted when we're on.
Nice. Luis Benito, welcome. Let's see. So let me ask you this, Furones, and let me ask this to the viewers, because I've already, this kind of gets back to my rant about how Anthony Weaver should be upset because his defense has been ignored. I've got a column written for tomorrow. I've got to tweak it. But part of the column, when we talk about are the Dolphins in win now mode, this offense ought to be able to carry this damn team. It would not be asking too much to ask this offense, actually to demand this offense to average at least 25 points per game. You've got 11 starters here. You've got your top backups here. You've got Mike McDaniel here. And here's kind of the thing. I believe it was 2020, the Brian Flores, Ryan Fitzpatrick Tua team averaged 25.3 points per game. 2014, the Joe Philbin, Ryan Tannehill team averaged 24.3 points per game. Are you telling me this offense can't score more than either of those? Is that what you're telling me? So shouldn't this offense be able to average like 27 points per game and carry this team to, I don't know, 8 wins, 9 wins, and then maybe the defense gets you a couple of wins? But is that asking too much of this offense to average 27 points per game?
So I know you're a big stat head. What were the numbers last year and the year before that?
In 2023, they averaged 29-2.
That was the number 2 scoring offense, right?
Yes. Last year, I want to say it was.
It was also a 70-point game. There was a 70-point game to shoot it up.
That's right. I'll see. I think last year, I want to say they averaged like maybe 19 points per game, or some maybe 20 or something like that. I'll look it up. But
which that one also, to be fair, I just mentioned 70 points to shoot one average up. That one had an abysmal stretch when Tua was not there. That shot the average down, and with more games to bring it down because the offense was terrible. But
that wasn't just an act of God. That was by poor design. Right. 20.3 last season. 20.3 points per game last season.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think asking 27 is asking too much of this offense. It's got to be able to carry this team. Look at who you have. Look at what you've added to it. Like, why? Why wouldn't it average that much?
Right. And when you play the Buffalo Bills, as you mentioned, the offense needs to score 30, 35 points because
at least
the Bills are automatic to do that
right.
with Josh Allen.
30. Yeah. Every time you've gone up to Buffalo in the Mike McDaniel era, the Bills have scored at least 30 points. That's 4 games, including the playoffs. 3 regular season and 1 playoff, the Bills have scored at least 30 in every game. 30-27 last year. The playoff game was 34-31, 32-29, and 48-20.
Yeah. The one Dolphins win against Buffalo was 21-19.
Right.
Exactly. Now that was a week 3 game with the heat was a factor. I know there was so much going on that game. But.
Yeah. I mean, didn't Buffalo run like 800 plays and the Dolphins won 12? Something. It was insane. Right? It was insane. That was a great game for the Dolphins.
I think time of possession was 59-30 to 0 in 30 seconds.
Exactly. Right. Billy Batson says offense is more overhyped than Shador. Yeah. Chris Ortiz says Tannehill offense could score 24 points a game with decent, not elite receivers. They did have a good O-line in 2016, though. You're right, Chris. They also had Jay Ajayi with those 200-yard games. I think he had 3 200-yard games, 2 against Buffalo and 1 against Pittsburgh. So yeah, Jay Ajayi but Jay Ajayi benefited from that good offensive line, as you say, Chris. I just think that this offense gets off easy. That they're Teflon, they're on scholarship. When things go wrong with the offense, it's either injuries or Liam Eichenberg's fault. It's never Tua, McDaniel, Waddle, Tyreek. It's always Liam or injuries. Expect this offense to do something. Demand this offense to do something. If I'm Anthony Weaver, I'll speak for Anthony Weaver, and I probably shouldn't even say that because I don't know how Weave feels. But if I was Weaver, I would think that this offense should be able to carry us, give me some time to put my neglected defense back on track. This offense underachieves. It ought to do better.
Yeah, you need it because last year was inexcusable. Whether it's Tua, whether it's a backup quarterback, you lost a backup quarterback excuse this year because you knew it had to be a strong acquisition. So if Zach Wilson was your choice, Zach Wilson better go and keep the offense humming just as well as Tua, or else we're all going to be coming down on it saying, well, this is why you shouldn't have taken a project as a backup quarterback for a team where you know you will need your backup quarterback to play.
Phil Montgomery says the league figured out the smoke and mirrors. I agree. I agree 100%. They know that if you shut down Tyreek, this offense has been shut down, and the offense can't win with the run game. It can't win any other way. So hopefully that changes this year. Hopefully the offense is more diverse with Devon Achane and Alexander Madison and Ollie Gordon. Hopefully Farrell Brown can get in there. He's an in-line tight end, but hopefully he can add some blocking, and that adds to the run game. James Daniels and Jonas Sabayanea add to the run game with their blocking, and this offense gets another dimension to its attack. That's what I'm really hoping for. All right, we're going to leave it there. What do you got to say there, Furones? You were going to add something? Okay, all right.
No, I'm with you. Yeah, we could use some excitement again. We had been spoiled with the offense being so excited those previous couple seasons, and then last year was very boring. So we could use the diversity of the offense to help the offense also get back to being exciting.
That's right. All right, folks, we're going to leave it right there. Thanks for tuning in. We will come at you probably next week, but we will definitely let you know. That's David Furones. I'm Chris Perkins. You've been watching Dolphins Deep Dive with Perkins.